and we're still looking to provide the safest environment for our employees and for our residents that we have interaction with. So I wish I had a more definitive
No,
outline.
you answered
but
my.
we're working on it.
Yeah, I think that's the key is to be, we're gonna be a little more nimble, but obviously still be respectful of if someone requires or asks for a mask, we'll still do that. And you know, the key is being smart in every circumstance and being respectful as well, so. All right. Move on then to item 4. This is Citizens Forum. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council? Yes, sir. Please come up and give your name and address for the record. And turn on the microphone too as well. There should be a button on the center of the microphone console.
Right there. Gotcha. Okay. Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is David Wright. I live at 7723 Madeline Creek Drive, Victoria, Minnesota. I happened to drive down yesterday. I guess I brought the cold weather with me. I was trying to get out of there and beat the storm. I'm a landowner out on 170th Street and Waterford. I've got 10 acres there. We had quite a bit more land there. It's been in our family for 100 plus years. And I'm bringing up this issue because I just found out a couple weeks ago that power poles and power lines were being moved from the west side of 170th Street over to the east side of 170th Street. I kind of found out by accident. One of the guys that was doing the installation emailed me, and that kind of threw me for a loop because the power poles and the power lines had always been on the other side of the road, on the west side of the road for decades. I have one parcel that's commercial right there on the corner, and then just below it, I've got residential. And I went out there today, and I've got to say, it's not the prettiest thing to look at when there's 10 or 11 power poles now abutting the property, as well as a prime commercial corner that's got 3 or 4 power poles with a significant amount of power lines there. And I guess one of my questions is there a way to explore getting those buried, get the power poles removed and get the lines buried? Number 2, I would say in the future, any landowner that's going to have something like that happen, they should be notified well in advance versus being surprised about it. And I guess I just want to bring that to your attention. And I don't know if this is something that, you know, I strictly have to deal with the power company, or if the city had the ability to require the power company to bury those lines if they were going to relocate them after decades to an adjacent owner's property that, again, we've owned for decades. I don't see it as a positive impact. I find it quite a negative impact, actually, having multiple power poles and power lines now, junking up the corner, as well as along the road there that residential will be facing.
Okay.
So.
All right, I'm gonna thank you for your comments. Yeah. I'm gonna ask John Larson, our city engineer, to address it. So.
Sure. So he is correct. The poles were originally on the west side. With our new complete streets policy, we've got the wider trail, you know, the 15 feet for the 10-foot asphalt, the 5-foot concrete, which that used up most of the right-of-way outside of the pavement. There was not enough room for the poles to be installed on the west side, whereas we only have the 5-foot sidewalk on the east side, so there's a lot more right-of-way, which left room for the poles to be installed. So Mid-American decided that it was best, since they couldn't fit them on the west side, that they would move them over to the right-of-way on the east side. So really, that's how they've ended up on the right side, or on the east side of the road. Basically, to underground it, I would guess that's somewhere maybe in the $1.5 million to $2 million. I mean, look, compared to what it would have been like on 104th for that 1 mile.
Okay.
So again, it's really, the utilities typically go in the right of way, and unfortunately, the only space we have for the poles is in the east side of the right of way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, John. So, again, the answer to that is, first of all, it is a Mid-American issue primarily. I mean, they are within their rights to be within that right of way to install the lines. So, I mean, it is a change, but Yeah, if you can come back up briefly, I'll let you, one more comment.
So it sounds, okay, so it sounds like they did an improvement of a sidewalk over on the east side? Is that?
On the west side.
Or, excuse me, on the west side. So you put an
That's with
improvement
the
of.
project, that's with the proposed project, yes. When we reconstruct 170th Street, there'll be a sidewalk and trail on that west side.
Okay, so it's an improvement over there. Okay.
Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on something not a part of tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we will then move on. First, adoption of the minutes, first from the February 8 meeting.
I'll move approval of the minutes of February 8th.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Sec-
second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Are you still not seeing me on there? No. All right, then, yes.
Did you log out and back in and everything? Okay. All right, then from the February 15 lunch and learn.
I'll move approval of the minutes from the February 15th Lunch and Learn meeting.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
I'll be a yes on that.
Okay, that passes. Item 6 is the consent agenda. We have 18 items for approval.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Motion by Kroll, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
I'm down for a yes as well.
Okay,
Sorry.
and that item passes. All right, thank you. I'm moving on then to public hearings. We'll start our public hearings at 6:18. First public hearing is to consider the maximum property tax dollars for fiscal year 22-23. The public notice for this was published. Let's see, in the February 11, 2022 Des Moines Register, and ask the clerk if any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Okay, and then ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Motion by
Seconded.
Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. And introducing this item is our Finance Director, Nikki Lamb. Nikki?
Mayor and members of the council, tonight you have the first step of adopting our annual budget. Back in 2019, legislature passed a new regulation that requires us to do a two-step public hearing process. If you're going to have a property tax dollar increase more than 2% from the prior year. So this first step is considered the max levy rate resolution that is adopted. So this lays out the capped levies that are outlined in this new legislation. For the layman's terms, it's the 3 except debt for us. So it does not represent our full levy, which is kind of confusing. That feedback was taken into account, but nonetheless, it did not change. So the levies that are proposed on the document that was published on the 11th represents the base 8.57 levy rate. That is unchanged from the prior year, but because valuations go up, it actually reflects dollar-wise 4.63%, which is the same as what our valuation growth was. So because we're over the 2%, it requires a supermajority vote of council to approve it so that we can move on to the actual adopted budget that will come on March 9th. So this is the rate that we talked about during our budget process and have approved. So the only piece that's not on here is the debt service levy, which is where the 10-cent reduction is coming in. So it goes from $1.54 to $1.44. So that is still part of it. We do disclose that in the teeny print that shows up in the newspaper because that's the only place that we can do that. We are not able to include that to represent the full $10.01 cumulative levy that we'll have. I think that's about all with that process. Like I said, it does require supermajority because it's over the 2% that's laid out in the legislation. Happy to answer any questions that you have on that.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki from the council? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. We have the resolution to consider. Motion by Blake,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that item passes. Moving on to item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider the general obligation bond series 2022A. The public notice for this was published in the February 11, 2022 Des Moines Register, and ask the clerk for any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask for a motion to second open this public hearing. Motion by Blake,
Seconded.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Nikki, back to you.
Okay, again, Mayor and members of the council, this is one of many steps that will start in the process to sell our bonds for the year. There's 3 pieces of resolution associated with actually taking the steps to get ready to issue those bonds, which we sell in April of 2022. The 3 pieces are broken up because they're of different types, so that we take the whole CIP document and break it up into what categories do those fall. So the TIF projects go under essential corporate purpose, urban renewal. All the other ones that are supported by our debt service levy are broken into essential corporate purpose, or the ECP that you'll see the abbreviation everywhere in my council letter, or GCP, which is general corporate purpose. So it's just a definition within the legislation. So you have to have separate hearings of each category. So that's why there's 3 separate hearings to accumulate to the total. And that breakdown is on page 2 of your council letter to show where those pieces are for. The third one with the urban renewal, you'll see that that's a huge number, $29 million. That's because we're proactively assuming that we would have the authority to sell for the Merle Hay Bucks project. We're not positive what the timing of that would be, but we would intend to go ahead and get the authorization to issue it so that once that's ready to roll, we're ready to sell. Hopefully it will be done at the same time, but we're not quite sure yet. The last piece of this is called the pre-levy. So what this does is your $1.44 that we just talked about with the previous item, that's what is supporting the issuance that's going to be supported by that $1.44. We have to tell the county auditor, we intend to levy a tax for this. So when I go to submit my budget, they agree with it, I guess. They let me levy for it because the bonds have not been sold, if that makes sense. So it's like authorization for them to award us property taxes for something that I've not yet done yet. So we issue a pre-levy with the intention of issuing a bond that's gonna be paid with property taxes, but it doesn't exist yet, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what the point of the pre-levy is. When we go to sell the bonds, the schedule that gets sent to the auditor will be trued up based on what actually happens. And that only locks in that first year. So it'll change the debt service for the remaining years based on what rate we actually get and such. So, but we have to have it on file with the county auditor in order to file our budget. So that's the last piece of that. There's 4 separate resolutions to approve as this item.
All right, thank you, Nikki. Any questions for Nikki on this item? All right, we are in public.
You.
There's lots of steps related to bonds.
Yeah.
I come see you 5 times related to bonds.
We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, ask for a motion and a second to close the public hearing. So moved. Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. We have 4 items for consideration.
Move resolution 065-2022.
Motion by Blake,
Second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Resolution 066-2022.
Motion by Blake,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 067-2022.
Motion by Blake,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve resolution 068-2022.
Motion by Blake,
Seconded.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider the resolution of necessity for the 170th Street paving project, Meredith Drive to Waterford Road. The public notice for this was published also in the February 11, 2022 Des Moines Register. Asks the clerk for any objections to that. Notice is published.
There were none.
Okay, thank you. Ask for a motion and a second to open the public hearing.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
By McBurney, second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. And then introducing this is our Director of Engineering and Public Works, John Larson. John?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is our public hearing on our preliminary assessment for the 170th Street paving project. Just a little bit about the project. The paving on 170th Street is just over 5,000 linear feet in length, and then the paving on Meredith Drive is just over 1,500 linear feet. The roadway will be a 4-lane construction. It'll be 80 foot wide with two 26-foot wide paving sections, and then a 28-foot wide median. The paving on 170th Street will be 8.5 reinforced concrete pavement, and then on Meredith Drive, it'll be 8.5 non-reinforced concrete pavement with a cement treated base. We talked earlier about our complete street section. On the west side of 170th, we'll have our complete street section with a 10-foot asphalt trail with the adjacent 5-foot concrete sidewalk. And then on the east side of 170th Street, there'll be a 5-foot sidewalk, except for where we granted the 5-year deferral on the Fisher properties along 170th. And then we'll be completing the 10-foot trails on the north side of Meredith Drive and Waterford Road. This is a joint project with the City of Clive for the Meredith Drive portion. So we've prepared a 28E between the two cities. Basically, the costs will be split 50-50 on what's left to build on Meredith Drive, and then Urbandale, of course, will be the lead agency. We have received $600,000 in surface transportation block grant funds for the 170th Street portion. And then we've also prepared a couple petition and waivers. The first one is with JBN LLC. They've requested a left turn lane be constructed into their property along with the rest of the paving. So in order to accomplish that, they've agreed to sign the petition waiver, which basically waives any requirement related to the assessment, including value. So we're doing that so we can build the left turn lane for them. Then also Acker Land Company asked for petition and waiver as well. The water main is being installed on the east side of 170th Street. They've asked that we stub that over to their property on the west side, so when they come to develop here shortly, it is there, and it's much cheaper for us or to build it when the road's out than for them to have to bore it, and then they'll pay 100% of that cost. So again, it's just a petition and waiver that they're agreeing to pay those costs. Just
A map for not the water main, but the previous petition.
Yep. So here, as we look at our assessment plat, they're right here in the northwest corner of 170th and Meredith. There was a house there. They've since tore that down. That is their property. So basically, this shows the left turn lane here and the full access.
Thank you.
Yep. So again, just looking at our assessment plat, so this is Meredith Drive here, here's 170th. So we assess 300 feet from the right-of-way. This rectangle here shows the Meredith Drive assessment. And since Clive's on the south side, that's why we're only on the north side of the road there. And then we show both sides, the east and west side of 170th Street. Then as we continue on up to Waterford Road, and then there's a small assessment associated with Waterford Road. We have approximately 150 feet that we do prior to the intersection that we're building when we tie Waterford Road into 170th Street. So just kind of going through some of our numbers, our assessable cost is just under 2.3 million. The city's cost is estimated at just under 7.6 million, and then the total project cost is just under 9.9 million. A little bit about our assessment. So for the paving, we assessed for a 31-foot width, 15.5 feet to each side of the road. We've estimated the preliminary assessment at $60 per square yard for the paving cost. Then if a property has not rezoned or been developed, we reduce that paving to be an equivalent of a 7-inch pavement. So in this case, their assessment instead of the $60 is $50.91. And those same properties, again, that have not been rezoned or are currently developed, we reduce the 5-foot sidewalk to 2.5 feet in width. And then we've estimated that at $36 per square yard. Those reductions have come out of past lawsuits that we've had related to our assessments. And right now we have no deficiencies. So looking in a little more detail of our paving assessment. So we've got 77 properties being assessed. 23 of those properties paid cash at the time of their final plat. Then 41 properties provided a bond at the time of their final plat. So that basically means once we've bid the project, know our costs, we'll contact the developer and the bonding company, and then they typically pay us. If the developer doesn't pay, the bonding company does. So we haven't had any situations where the property owner was still responsible. The bonds always cover that, or the developer. We do have 4 properties that do have petitions and waivers. We did mention 2 of those earlier. Then we have 9 properties with a new assessment. 3 of those properties have been rezoned for development. 1 is owned by the city. It's our satellite maintenance facility. And then there are 4 properties that have the potential for agricultural deferment. Then looking at the sidewalk assessment, there's 19 properties being assessed. 10 of the properties paid cash at the time of the final plat. 4 properties have the petition and waiver. So that leaves 5 properties with a new assessment. And again, there's still 3 properties that have been rezoned, 1 property owned by the city, and then 1 property that has the potential to claim agricultural deferment, which basically means as long as they continue to use it for ag purposes, they do not have to pay the assessment. There's no interest, until which time, if they decide to develop, then they would be required to pay that assessment. So again, if it's used for ag purposes, they would not owe an assessment. And then we also had an assessment committee meet. Council members Adam Olbrich and Larry McBurney were on that committee. And we held the meeting on February 15th. So basically anybody that was being assessed was invited to come to that meeting. That gave them the opportunity to discuss the project and if they thought there was anything unusual about their property or anything that should change their assessment. We did not have anybody from the public attend that meeting. So as of right now, the committee did recommend, no changes to the assessment. Tonight, or right before the meeting, we did receive a couple letters objecting to the assessment from the Marvin and Marilyn Fisher property and from the James Fisher property. Just want to go through a couple things on that. And basically, in those both the letters, they discussed how they didn't feel there was any special benefit and they should have no assessment. Just wanted to go through a couple things on what we look at for as being a benefit to them. By adding the storm drainage pipe, we do eliminate the ditches and do improve drainage by their property. We'll be adding street lights with the project, which again improves visibility by their property. We'll also, basically by improving the road and everything, we enhance for their development, which helps them build to their highest and best use. It also helps for better access for police and fire. You know, it helps lower our response times. There's more lanes, easier to get to the property. And then also on the James Fisher property, after discussing this with legal counsel, and there's some question about whether we were over the 25% of the value of the property. What staff and legal counsel are recommending that council modify the preliminary assessment for parcel 6M, which is the James Fisher property. What we would be doing is eliminating the left turn lane into his property. Basically, there is no access on the north side of the road, so if they ever did develop, they could always go build that left turn lane. But as of right now, we would recommend council remove that from the plans and then reduce his assessment by that amount to make sure that there's no question about being under the 25%. So what staff and council is recommending, and like I said, that parcel 6M, we would change the roadway assessment to $140,822.03. The sidewalk assessment would stay the same, then his total of preliminary assessment would be $156,735.73. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
John, do the resolutions that we have tonight to reflect that, or we need to amend that as we?
We'd have to amend it to make those changes.
Okay, so
The biggest issue we have is, being that they came right before the meeting, we couldn't really postpone the public hearing because that would upset the letting.
Okay.
So we needed to make these changes now so we could stay on the DOT's letting.
I've got a couple of questions for you, John. I guess I don't understand the petition and waiver, what that really means.
It basically means that they're giving up any right to object to anything related to the assessment, and they've signed and agreed that this says, we agree that we want these improvements done. City, construct these improvements for you, and we agree to pay for them.
So it's just adding on something to our project that benefits them, and they're gonna pay for it. But
Correct.
it's gonna become part of our project.
Correct. We construct it for them, and then they reimburse us.
Okay.
Yep, it's fairly common on the projects that we do that. There's sometimes where people have wanted like a right turn lane in or a special driveway or something that we built it for them, and then they reimburse us.
And then, I didn't have a copy of the letter from James Fisher. Did anyone else?
But that wasn't at your desk.
I just have the, Marilyn and Marvin letter.
Apologize for that.
And can you explain to me this 25% objection that you were talking about, or go into a little more detail about that?
Sure. So basically, per code, the limit of the assessment is 25% of the value of the property. On this one, we happen to use our appraisal. That is lower than the appraisal that Mr. Fisher used in his condemnation. Maybe we should have used that one, which, again, the difference was we were just under 800,000. His appraisal was $2.6 million. So that, but again, we did not use
For 6A and 6,
6A and 6M. So the way we had looked at it is we've got an assessment on Meredith Drive and assessment on 170th Street. He's got two separate ones. The question is whether those are looked at two separate improvements or all looked at as one. But as we were saying on here, right now there's 169th Street in Clive, and we were proposing to construct this left turn lane that would benefit him come future development. That's why, just to eliminate any confusion or question on that, we're just asking council to eliminate that. And we'll just make, there'll be a left turn lane into Clive and then a normal median on the west side. If this property ever did develop, they could construct that left turn lane and they'd be set up for a full access.
so will Clive residents or anyone coming out of that neighborhood be able to go left or right?
Correct. It'll still be an open median.
Okay.
There just will not be a left turn lane, because right now, that opening, if there was an access on the other side, would go into his cow lot. There is no driveway or anything on that north side. Again, we were building that with the intent of making it easier for his future development, but again, if he's arguing he's not going to develop and it shouldn't be developed, we don't need that left turn lane.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for John at this time? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Go ahead, please come up here and give your name and address.
Thank you. My name is Casey Flaherty Tarpey. I'm from the Dentons Davis Brown Law Firm, and our firm represents Jim Fisher. I have a couple of copies of the letter if anyone wanted me to hand them over. I didn't know if you hadn't had the chance to have them, but we just wanted to briefly touch base on what the letter discusses and talk through some of the issues. We object to the assessments to the property, obviously. It was discussed just a minute ago that the 25% rule that comes under Iowa Code Section 384, since it appears that that issue is being addressed, I just want to note that that's an issue that we raised in our letter. We also note that the assessment's not consistent with Iowa law, specifically Happy versus the city of Urbandale. There are relevant factors to be considered when conferring special benefits and special assessments. A couple of those relevant factors include the present and future use of the property, the increasing market value of the affected property, the proximity, the amount of the property, the needs of the property owners served by the improvement, and the primary purpose behind the construction of the improvement. And the analysis of these factors does demonstrate that the project does not provide special benefits and instead burdens the property. The property is presently used for raising livestock. It's zoned agricultural A1. The Meredith project will significantly increase volume and traffic that causes increased safety issues with raising livestock next to a busy 4-lane road. When considering future use, the city cannot genuinely propose that the future development of the potential property is a special benefit. The city recently rezoned the property from PUD to A1, and a representative of the city previously stated in a public hearing that the land would, quote, never be rezoned. Of course, we cannot predict the future, and this is the only opportunity that Mr. Fisher has to say that these assessments are too high and it does not meet the burden test under the Happy case. So even though a city official has previously stated that the property would never be rezoned, we can't know for sure, and that's why we're objecting today. It also does not increase the market value of a farm property. As the city knows, the city recently rezoned it to agricultural, and because the property is no longer PUD, the value, there is no longer benefits, but it actually burdens the property. And the market value of the property has not increased. Instead, the property's value has significantly decreased because it is now an agricultural property next to what will be a 4-lane road. The proximity of the property and the relocation of the new roadway onto and closer to the Jim Fisher property creates the likelihood that there will be more noise and the potential concern when there's farming equipment and trucks and livestock. It's not just noise, it's also the safety when it's coming and going of such big equipment. And finally, the primary purpose behind the construction and the improvement, which the Happy case discusses. Urbandale's primary purpose for the property is, of course, to bear the traffic volumes that is anticipated with the development of the area. And it's a very minor contributor. Jim Fisher is a very minor contributor to the traffic on the area. I'm not saying that the traffic is minor. I apologize if I misspoke. Jim Fisher is just a minor contributor to that traffic, and the primary purpose is truly for those individuals that will enjoy and use the road. The reality for Jim Fisher is that it makes it more difficult for him to access his property and to get larger farm equipment around the median. And so with the Happy factors in mind, and the Fisher property being zoned A1, he will not receive a special benefit. If anything, it makes farming more difficult. And consequently, Jim Fisher can establish that the city's preliminary assessments were excessive and must be reduced, not just because of the 25% issue, but also because of the Happy factors in the city of Urbandale case. I can take any questions.
Anything further?
Sorry, I missed what you
Is
said.
there anything further?
I have nothing further.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is there anyone else like to address the council on this item? Yes, sir.
Let me state my name again.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, for the record.
Okay, yeah, David Wright. I did sign a petition and waiver, just want to clarify that. I just had a question as far as if this was ever considered for a TIF district, and I don't know if that's, maybe John answers that, or if you guys know, to help ease the burden. It's not currently part of what, no.
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious, is that something that could be looked at in the future, or no? The only reason I ask is because my property, you guys kind of saw it on one of the examples there. It roughly is equating out to about $25,000 per acre is what I'm getting assessed in that area right there on that commercial and that residential parcel, that 10 acres that I was referring to earlier. So I was just curious if there's a way to help ease that burden.
Well,
At some point. And then also, I was just curious how the valuations, how those, I guess, how those were calculated. Because it's showing one of the parcels being roughly almost $100,000 an acre valuation, and another one that's $75,000 in valuation. So I was just curious how those were formulated. And I don't know who answers that, but I just wanted
I'll have John come
I
up
wanted
again.
to throw that out there.
All right, thank you.
Guess maybe the easiest way to answer that is with the petition and waiver. The petition and waiver waives all right to object, so we have a valuation to make sure it covers the assessment in there. Again, so we base it on that petition and waiver.
Okay, thank you, John. And again, with regard to a TIF, you had a question about that. I mean, that's not really germane to what we're doing tonight, but I mean, it's, generally, this would not, areas of our city such as this, the areas that we target our TIF district for are more areas that need, some special attention and some help. So that's where we target. An area of development such as this is not typically something that would be in a TIF district, so. All right, we are still in public hearing. Would anyone else like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion a second to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. All right, John, then with respect to the resolution, so the amendment on James Fisher would be with respect to the first resolution, wouldn't it be that we?
Would be 081 since that's the plan. I think resolution 081 would be amended.
No, the zero.
I don't know, we have other legal advice here since I'm not the attorney, but it seemed to me, I think we just want to make sure that we're covered, that maybe we cover it to make sure that the change is reflected in 79 and 80, that we're changing the assessment plat and in the plans.
Okay. And then numbers again, we'll provide those again.
156, 735.
Okay, so we would be changing the 6M, that the roadway paving assessment would be modified to $140,822.03. The sidewalk assessment remains the same, so the new total preliminary assessment is $156,735.73.
Okay. right, so we have 6 resolutions for consideration. You want to tackle?
So moved Resolution 07920-2022 with the aforementioned change. Is that what we need?
Motion by Kroll, second by Blake. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Does this need to be changed, the language on here?
I can't see that, so.
You can't read this?
No.
It doesn't, it just is what's on the agenda.
Okay, but
Yeah, with the change will be
Amy,
reflected.
yes,
It'll be noted?
yes, with the change noted. So. Okay, that passes.
And I move Resolution 080-2022 with the aforementioned change.
Change to the James Fisher assessment.
Yes, to the James Fisher assessment.
Okay, motion by Kroll,
I'll second it.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 081-2022.
Okay, motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 082-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move resolution 083-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
And move resolution 084-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to thank our engineering staff, our community development staff, and our legal staff for, and we're not quite there yet, but for all of the hard work over the last many, many years to get us to this point. As you all know, this is an incredibly important project for development and safety on the west side of our community. And I really can't underestimate how important this is going to be for the development out on the west side to have this project completed in the very near future, relatively. So thank you all for your hard work. And hopefully it'll be smooth sailing from here on out.
All right, thank you. Moving on then to item 7.4 is a public hearing and the consideration of bids for the Douglas Avenue urbanization plantings from Patricia Drive to the North Walnut Creek. And the public notice for this was also published in February 11, 2022. And ask the clerk, do you mind registering and ask the clerk for any objections to that notice is published?
There were none.
That's for a motion and a second to open this public hearing. Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John, turn it back to you.
So this is our bid tabulation on the planting portion of our Douglas Avenue urbanization project. On February 16th, we did receive one bid for the project. We are recommending the low base bid from Alpha Landscapes LLC in the amount of $650,418. Their low bid is approximately $46,000 or 7.7% more than our engineer's estimate for that base bid. Right now, we're not recommending accepting the alternate, which would have been 12 monument icons for $107,400. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. And we're anticipating the work being completed by May of next year. So a little bit about the project. So we'll have several of the 1 gallon perennials. We'll have some 3 gallon shrubs, several different sizes of deciduous trees and evergreen trees, and then 5,000 of the bulb plantings. We'll also have some irrigation, median sculptures, and light columns. So this is just kind of a typical section or an area within the plan. So we can see up here on the north side of Douglas, these are complete street sections with the asphalt trail and the 5-foot sidewalk. You can see the different trees that'll be planted on the north right of way here. Then as we get out into the medians where we have more of the beds, we'll have the shrubs and the plantings shown in their different little pods here. And then on the south side of the road where we just have the 5-foot sidewalk, again, we'll be adding some trees and some different kind of grasses on the south side. So this is just showing what it'll look like for our median sculptures. Again, these will be on 3 locations within the project. And then we've got our, as our light columns as well. This is where we'd set up that sample in the parking lot for people to look at. And then going into our alternate, what that involved is by each of the 3 streets on the north side, kind of some additional beds of plantings, and then what they were intended to be is a concrete that looks like limestone that we could have put, you know, any of these different images that come from our monument signs out at the Douglas interchange. We had originally estimated that they would be about $1,500 a piece. Unfortunately, they came back at $9,000 a piece. So that's kind of why we were recommending against them, because it did put us over budget. And I think we'll still have a very good project without these included. It is possible that these always could be included at a future date. There'd be a few flowers that would be removed, but we could still install these at the other locations.
I was, based on the information that was provided us in this staff recommendation, I was thinking that we were removing those blue
Oh,
sculptures.
Sure.
So I'm less concerned than I expressed to AJ in my voicemail about the removal of these. But I think in the future, maybe we could have more explanation and maybe pictures in the staff recommendation on things like this.
Just a quick question, just because I have no idea about plants generally. So,
I do either.
Okay, I was just curious, there's a lot, there were like 1,000 different plants that were, is this going to be a yearly thing that we have to maintain and replant these, or are these perennials that will be there every year?
No, these are, once we get them established, they're fairly hardy plants and will be able to handle themselves. That's why really, for the irrigation, a lot of it's really, they're more or less hose bibs at different locations, so parks can bring the hoses out, water them, and after the first couple of years, there should be a lot less need for that unless we get into like a drought situation. So our intent was to pick hardy plants that could basically hopefully take care of themselves. Now, there'll still be some work as far as cleaning up the beds and trimming them and things like that.
All right, any other questions for John from the council? All right, we're on public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second to close this public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by McBurney, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Yeah, that passes. We have 3 items for consideration.
Motion to approve Resolution 69-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Motion to approve 70-2022.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. You guys are keeping me on my toes. That passes.
And motion to approve Resolution 71-2022.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thank you. Moving on to item 7.5. is the public hearing and consideration of bids for the 2022 PCC Patch Program Phase 2. The public notice for this was published in the February 4, 2022 Des Moines Register, and ask the clerk for any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Okay, thank you. I'm asked for a motion and a second to open the public hearing. Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. John?
This is our bid tabulation for our second phase of our PCC patch program. On February 16th, we did receive 3 bids for the project. We're recommending the low bid of TK Concrete in the amount of $1,280,825. Their bid was roughly $80,000 or 6.7% more than our engineer's estimate. For comparison to our phase 1, the patching unit cost was $74.50 per square yard. This one was $75, so 50 cent different per square yard. So again, as we've kind of seen, some of our projects have been a little more expensive, but this one is very similar to our first phase. We're looking to do 15,400 square yards of patching at 167 locations. We anticipate the work being done by September 23rd. So where we're at, a lot of this is in the Patricia Park area. So we've got Hickman Road to the south and Patricia Drive here's kind of on the easternly boundaries. We've got patches out in here, and then we got the Parkview Circle cul-de-sac as well, where we're doing some patches. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, John. Any questions for John on this? We're in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then ask for a motion and a second to close this public hearing. Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We have 3 items for consideration here.
Move resolution 072-2022.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move approval resolution 073-2022.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes.
Move approval resolution 074-2022.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. All right, thank you. That ends our public hearings. Let's set some more. Item 8 is establish a public hearing for the operating budget fiscal year 2022, 2023.
So move resolution 058-2022.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.2 is to establish the public hearing to vacate a portion of the storm sewer and surface water flow easement for Lot 1, Walnut Trace Terrace, Plat 1.
So move resolution 030-2022.
Motion by Kroll, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 8.3 is to establish the public hearing for the Walnut Creek Regional Park pedestrian loop trail.
Motion to move resolution 019-2022.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. That ends that. Moving to item 9, planning and zoning items. We have 2. First is item 9.1, the Orton Home Showroom site plan at 14401 Hickman Road. And introducing this is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. So this is a site plan for a 3-story office building. You can see Hickman Road here at the bottom of the screen. This is the existing dental office that's been constructed out there. This is the drive that comes in off of Hickman. And so this is the parcel immediately west of that existing drive. These are the existing homes that have been constructed immediately here to the north. And then this is the area that was rezoned, several months ago. Some of the older homes, you access these by the frontage road off of Hickman Road. These are all for sale and with hopes that they could be redeveloped into some sort of an office situation there. So the dark rectangle that you see here is the building itself. As I mentioned, it is 3 stories. There was recently a PUD amendment that was approved to increase the height to 3 stories, and from 35 feet to 41 feet. The maximum height is 40 feet, so it does comply with that amendment. It will primarily be occupied by Orton Homes with their offices on all 3 levels of the building. And then there is also a restaurant and bar that's being proposed that takes up about 4,400 square feet within the building. The main part of that would be on the ground floor, and then they would also have a patio up on the 2nd floor. Total parking spaces for all of the uses, when you factor in the shared parking component, would be 146 spaces, and that is what they're showing. So they are compliant with the parking requirements as well. As far as elevations, I can show you what that looks like. Primarily glass and brick, so it does meet the requirements of the PUD for building materials. There are the 2 long sides of the building there, and then there are the 2 short sides, so pretty consistent with how that looks. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer any questions.
Steve, can you go back to the aerials, the elevations, and show me like the patio and how that works?
This would be it right here.
So is there part of it that's only like 1 story, part of the building that's only 1 story? That would have the open, is it an open patio?
Yep, it is open. Don't know exactly what the construction is going to look like. Understood that there was a concern about, how this might affect residents. So I did reach out to Bruce Gates, who is the CEO of Orton Homes, of Orton Development, actually, and just made him aware of that concern. And he responded and said that the patio will be constructed such that it will not create a problem. So we understood, and we've been having discussions with Orton for a long time about doing this. They kind of thought about, do they want their offices to be here? They had a lot of thoughts about that. The operator of the restaurant and bar is someone that Rob Orton does know. So there is a relationship there. And again,
I mean, I'm very excited about the concept of having a restaurant here in Dallas County, Urbandale.
yes, I understand.
As a fellow Dallas County Urbandale resident, I'm sure you are too. I guess if that's on the rear side, I know there's a significant elevation, but I am slightly concerned about noise. I mean, it'd be fantastic to have a little band out there, but.
Well, that's not allowed, so that's one of the things.
That's where my concern.
Right. There's 2 things that I think will carry the day on this. One is CN is our lowest intensity commercial use. In many instances, several locations, you get residential pretty close to restaurants and bars, which are allowed in the CN. However, they are not allowed to have live entertainment. Right. So they won't have anybody out there playing music. There won't be any live entertainment going on. So it's just a matter of the patrons being out there on the patio. And then it becomes like anything else. If there's a problem, we've already made Orton aware that, hey, there might be a concern here. So we've already put them on notice, and if we get complaints, we'll talk.
I mean, I think with the elevation, it shouldn't be an issue.
That will certainly help. Yep. And it's not a huge space either.
Yeah.
Well, I think, is there any possibility that they can move it to the front of the building? So kind of flip it? Because that was one of my biggest concerns, was just knowing that that area is slightly more elevated than where the homes are at. And just, I don't know what types of trees they plan on putting between the back of the property versus what they have next to the business. And I mean, I'm excited because I can walk to this restaurant, so I think it'd be awesome, but I am concerned about
Here is the landscape plan, just to kind of help you see this. So,
Where is it on the restaurant or the patio
it's going
portion?
to be back here.
On the,
And
northwest
Okay.
corner.
So here's the property line. You can see all of the trees that they're going to plant on the buffer, the south side of the rear yard of the homes that are there. So there's the buffer there. Quite a few plantings within the interior parking lot. And then the other thing that we've got going for us here is this would be 60 feet. This looks like that would be, so that's going to be 42. So we're about 100 feet away from the property line. from the rear lot line there to the building, and then we've got quite a bit of room here too. So I think between the topography, as you mentioned, some pretty significant plantings that they're doing, and just, again, putting the owner on notice that, hey, we're gonna be watching this, we don't want this to be a concern. My intuition is we're gonna be all right.
Yeah, but you've got 100 feet, as you mentioned. I was just looking at what that is, the distance between the building and the north property line.
It's set back quite a ways.
Well, I'm excited to see this project, and if you are content with the patio space, which I think will be very, very cool
Yeah.
to have that there too, though.
Certainly has the possibility of being a very nice space, and if it becomes a problem, we will certainly address it.
Just out of curious, is this a little bike trail? What is this coming up in front here?
This right here?
Yeah.
Yep, that's just sidewalk coming, this is the main path that goes along the north side of Hickman. So this would just be the pedestrian connection that would get you up into the parking lot and across and through and into the building.
Okay.
So when Larry's walking there, that's how he gets the front door.
That's how he will get there, correct?
Right. And so they're not going to have any type of fencing or any type of obstruction other than just the natural
Correct.
trees, shrubbery?
There is a retaining wall that's right here, just to
Okay.
make up the grade difference. There's a little bit of a retaining wall.
Got it.
And then, obviously, these are all of the overstory and understory trees that they'll be planting.
And we haven't heard any complaints from any residents or anything about this? Okay.
When we had the public hearing to make it 3 stories, there were no complaints at that point, so.
All right. Anything further?
Is there a time frame?
I assume it's as soon as possible, but I'm trying to remember if there was anything in the P and Z minutes, and I don't think they got. Mr. Miller, are you on by chance? Do you know what their time frame is?
I don't. I assume they're trying to look for maybe starting in the spring.
Okay.
I guess.
Great.
They've been hemming and hawing this for a long time, so I would assume they want to go now.
All right.
Well, I will move approval of Council Letter 6987.
Okay, motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 9.2 is to consider the Highland Meadows Phase 2 preliminary plat at 170th Street and Plum Drive.
This is a preliminary plat for the remainder of the Highland Meadows development residential portion, majority of the residential portion, that's yet to be undeveloped. There are some parcels, David Wright, who spoke earlier, he and his family own the parcels up here in the corner, which is, part of it is commercial and part of it could be residential as well. Everything that's in the thick black outline is what has been purchased by Kimberly Development. It was owned for years by an out-of-state developer and just kind of wasn't moving anywhere. Kimberly has acquired this and is now being able to move this forward. So plats 1, which is located here, 2 and 4, which are located here, are finally moving forward. And so this is the remainder of the property, which will be done over 4 different plats, plats 5 through 8. When all is said and done, there'll be a total of 203 lots that would be in there. There was, an amendment that was done September 20th of 2021, which allowed for a mix of 50, 60, and 70-foot lots. It was residential before that amendment. The thing that's different now, as we're seeing all over the place, is to have some of these narrower 50 and 60-foot lots in there. So that is how it all lays out with that mix of 50, 60, and 70-foot lots. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, subject to items noted. Would be happy to answer any questions. And Dean Roger is back there, who is the engineer on this and can answer questions as well.
All right.
Do you think that'll be an actual park?
Say again?
A park
Yep.
that will be an actual park?
It will be. Jan is very excited about this, been talking about this for some time. We've known it's coming because it's always been part of this plan.
Okay.
It's pretty good size, and I think there's a lot of opportunities in there.
Yeah,
Jan, are you actually salivating? Are you online? Yeah, she said she was. Yeah, anyway, yes, we've got,
Okay.
it's a good-sized park, and I know she's got lots of big plans on it. And the nice part about it, too, is with streets on two sides of this park. If we deem that this is a park that's big enough with how it's going to get programmed to have some parking spaces in there, pretty easy to get to it to be able to do that, so.
Well, I like it when Jan gets excited, so I don't know if AJ feels the same way.
Yes, Jan is very excited.
There you go. Jan is very excited, okay.
So just from a procedural standpoint with this parkland, do we wait for, when does that go in? Does that, once everything is built and then it goes, like, what's the process for that?
So, yep, so what we do is we wait for the plat that includes that parcel to get platted. As part of the platting process, they would actually dedicate that land to us. So once we own it, then it kind of opens up the door to begin, for Jan to start thinking about what kind of playground are we going to build in there, how are we going to program that thing, work through the CIP to be able to get those things in there. And I think, Dean, do you know, is it this next plat, the first plat is going to include the park, correct? That's the plan. Yep, yep. So this next plat that we'll see will include the park, which would be great. And then, because then we can start working on it while all these other plats that come in later, you know, when those houses get built.
All right. Nothing else? We have a resolution for consideration.
Move to approve Council Letter 6988.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. Okay, that passes. All right, thank you, Steve. Item 10, regular agenda items versus item 10.1 is to consider the collective bargaining agreement for the construction and public employees Leuna Local 177 Laborers Union. And to introduce this is our Human Resource Director, Erin Freeman. Erin?
Hi, good evening. As some of you may recall, last March, you ratified the collective bargaining agreement for all three of our unions, labor, police, and fire. They are all three-year contracts, so they do not expire until June of 2024. However, at that time, we were uncertain how COVID would impact the budget. So in all three of those contracts, we included wage reopeners for either 1 or for 2 years. So what we are bringing before you now are just the wage clauses for the labor and the police unions. We met with our negotiation team, including directors and the few members of the membership for the labor union, came to an agreement for a 3.5% for an across-the-board increase for 2022 and 3% for 2023. They're very pleased with that, and their membership has already ratified that. So if that is something that you're interested in doing, we'd ask for you to ratify that tonight, and that would close all the provisions in that contract through June of 2024.
Okay. Thank you, Erin. Any questions for Erin on this item? Okay, ask for a motion in a second.
I'll approve Council Letter 6973.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Then item 10.2 is consider the collective bargaining agreement for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters number 238, our police union. Erin?
Yep, so similar for the police collective bargaining agreement. We had a wage reopener for 2022 and 2023. We met with the membership negotiation team and our leadership team and have agreed to a 4% increase for 2022, along with a 4% wage scale adjustment, as well as 4% in 2023. The goal in doing that is hopefully to assist with the recruitment and retention in law enforcement, which is a challenge for all cities, not just the city of Urbandale. And their membership team was excited about that agreement, and they also have approved that through their membership.
Thank you, Erin. Questions for Erin on this item?
Will we be seeing one from fire?
We only had a 1-year wage reopener for fire. So this time next year, you will see that for 2023 wages for fire.
I'm glad you keep track of all this stuff.
All right.
So move Council Letter 6977.
Okay.
I'll second
By
it.
Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you very much.
Item 10.3 is consider the 2022, 2027, 2037 City of Urbandale Strategic Plan. John Conyard answering questions on this, if there are.
All right, motion to approve Council Letter 6957.
Motion by McBurney,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. We are deferring item 10.4 to the March 8 meeting. Item 10.5 is to consider the bids for the Glen Eagles Trail repair. John?
Okay, yeah, this is our bid tabulation for the Glen Eagles Trail repair. On February 16th, we received 7 bids on this project. We're recommending the low bid of Concrete Connection LLC in the amount of $35,700. Their bid is approximately $8,000 or 18% less than our engineer's estimate. This trail will be 8 feet wide, 5-inch thick concrete, and its length is approximately 500 feet. And we're anticipating the project being done by September 16th of this year. So just kind of show you where the project is at. So we have 96th Street over here, Meredith Drive on the south. So there's a section of trail right through here that we're looking to replace. Basically, a little history. This section of the trail was put in quite a while ago. I'm guessing maybe late 90s, early 2000 or so. It wasn't until 2013 that we did the connections that went up into Glen Eagles with the bridge, and then also over here that connected up north to Plum Drive. So again, this section here is deteriorated, and we're just looking to replace that right now. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for John on this? Ask for a motion.
Motion
move
to
Council Letter
approve Council Letter 6984, or 6986, excuse me.
Motion by McBurney.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. That passes. Item 10.6 is consider the bids for the Sylvan Ridge Trail repair.
Right, so this is our bid tabulation for the Sylvan Ridge project. On February 16th, we received 8 bids on this project. We're recommending the low bid of MPS Engineers doing business as Kingston Services in the amount of $67,883. Their bid is $3,000 or 4.3% less than our engineer's estimate. Similar to the other trail, this one will be 8 feet wide, 5-inch thick concrete, and it's about approximately 1,000 feet in length. This one, based on the budget years, is anticipated to be done by June 3rd of this year. Just kind of show you where we're at. So we got the interstate to the north, here's 72nd Street. So it's this section of the trail in blue that we're going to replace. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. John, any questions for John on this?
Motion to approve Council Letter 6984.
Motion by McBurney.
Second.
Second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote. All right, that passes. Item 10.7 is consider the street light proposal for the Douglas Avenue urbanization from North Walnut Creek to 100th Street. John, is there anything more on this? Or?
Glad to answer your question.
Okay.
Motion to approve Council Letter 6981.
Motion by McBurney.
Second.
Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote. And that passes. All right, thanks. That takes us to the end of our regular agenda. Item 11, Mayor and Council items. Amy?
Nothing that I'm sure Matt's not going to cover.
All right. Bridget? No?
I have nothing tonight.
Matt?
I do have one thing, I suppose. No, I was approached by AARP's state director related to accessory dwelling units. I think I emailed you about it, AJ. And he sent me some model language. He wanted to look at our language, and we had some discussions on it. I did contact Anacon's staff, and we had a back and forth on it. And so they have model language. Apparently, our language is on the more restrictive side, and their language is on the most allowable side of things. So the suggestion from staff was that if, again, I think there might be interest in this potentially, that during the comp plan to assess this and take a look at it and see where we could expand it. So I just want to let you all know that I was approached by AARP on this particular issue.
Was that Kent Sovereign or who?
Well, he's retired, it's Brad Anderson now.
Okay, okay.
So it's Brad Anderson and I approached me on that. So that's just something I just want to let you all know that I've been working on.
Okay.
I think hopefully there may be interest on this, and maybe this is something we could do for lunch and learn as we move to towards the comp plan, but just want to let you all know. Other than that, there's lots of stuff going up at the Capitol, I know, and I've been keeping the mayor connected when needed, but lots of fun stuff.
I think we're okay so far. I don't know if we've on that one, Bill, but appreciate, every once in a while, Matt will reach out. And
Hey, could you do this? So, all right.
I'm very supportive of the accessory dwelling units. I happen to know the organization pretty well that is working on the model unit in Des Moines in conjunction with the AARP and I think Invest DSM. So.
All right, thanks, Matt. Larry?
Got nothing for once.
I'm trying to think if I have anything. Let me just, give me a second here and let me revisit my calendar and make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't think I have anything of any note for the group.
Is there anything at the that we need, going on at the Capitol that we need to be?
I don't know where the local option sales tax, where that proposal currently is right now. Do you know, AJ?
We have not heard any update on that. It's still included in the Senate plan, but I don't believe that there has been any compromised language included in the House at this point in time. I think the House is moving more quickly than the Senate is. And then, of course, there's a whole host of language with tax-related issues associated with the governor's material. So only the local option sales tax is included in the Senate version. We have not heard any update on that at this time. We're connected to the city of Des Moines and some other locations that are monitoring that as well, and I've asked them to keep me in the loop. Right now, we do know by the estimates based by the league, and I think they've been confirmed by the Department of Revenue, that if the local option sales tax proposal of incorporating a 7% statewide sales tax, overall, the city would lose roughly $650,000 from our current proceeds. I was trying to think, Des Moines would lose
8 million, I think.
8 million. I was going to say between 8 and 10 million. Clive would lose a couple $100,000. West Des Moines would lose well over $1 million. I believe Ankeny would almost be neutral, maybe to a little plus. They're almost an exporter based on their size.
Well, they don't have the local option sales tax there.
No, but if you made it a statewide 7%, and they were able to collect, and then they were part of the distribution process that is now the formula, they would then have money. The big question there, and I'm just going to deviate just a bit, is that when communities consider the local option sales tax, you have the option of either considering a local option sales tax for your residents to vote on, or the city could implement a franchise fee that would be controlled by the council up to 5%. That was not required for a vote. You couldn't have both of them. So part of this legislation you'll have to consider is, what do you do with a city like Ankeny that has a franchise fee because they didn't want to do the sales tax? And so if the state law forbid you to have both of them, are they going to make those alterations? And if they're going to make that alterations, then our city's going to be able to come back now and view a franchise fee if they choose to. And there's also the big debate about a lot of cities have dedicated sales tax proceeds to retire debt. And so if that source goes away, then they're going to have to shift that to property tax to pay for that debt that they have outstanding, that they issued based on the state rules that you could utilize local option sales tax to secure that debt. So there's still a lot of movement in that regard. And then the other one, and and again, sorry, I didn't mean to take up your time.
No,
But
please do.
the other one that is out there that we're monitoring, and I can't think, it's under the governor's bill. It's really I'm trying to think of the right word. It's superseding all local building codes.
That's in the governor's workforce bill.
Yes.
So
and-
that's a tough bill. There's 10 divisions of that bill. It's the first one in it. So it's tough to fight it because of the fact that it is in my association's supporting because there's healthcare workforce stuff in it.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead and elaborate on it. I'm just telling you the politics of it.
No, it's wrapped in at least 10, if not 12, different items on there that it's a real mulligan stew of a legislation that if you like 6 parts of it and you don't like one part, you're still going to vote for it because it has the 6 or 7 parts you like. And the concern that we have at this point in time is that the legislation would essentially establish a statewide building code and that no local community could have anything more stringent than the state. And, there has been, as the mayor knows, through the Capital Crossroads Network, there's been a concerted effort throughout the metro to get almost every community on board and having the same building code. And the national building codes comes out every 2 years. And so everybody's agreed that we're going to use at this time the current 215 model. And then every community does have, if this changes it, has the prerogative to make changes or additions or nuances to that code that are particular to their community that they feel are important. It also would either supersede or, same thing with the fire code. They would establish a fire code, and so you couldn't have fire code regulatory issues that were any more stringent than the state. And I will say maybe 15 to 17 years ago, they took over the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical codes, and those were state permits. So if you were a contractor, you'd get your permit for mechanical or electrical from the state, and the state would then send an inspector out to view your property for inspections. And so that was, unless you had it yourself. I mean, I'm sorry, the state would do that, but then other cities would do it based on the state code. So, and again, if this were to proceed, would our inspectors, they would enforce the state code that would be in place. And so every time, we would not be able to adjust that building code until the state did. And so we wouldn't be able to adjust it. We would just have to adhere to whatever national building code that they adopted. And again, every 2 years it comes out. So that would be uniform. And as Councilmember Blake mentioned, as part of the governor's proposal, and as I understand, the theory behind it is to eliminate or to have a uniform process by which builders and would encourage building in less robust areas and remove barriers that it's thought to have been for developing either workforce or affordable housing in communities. And we're following that through the fire department, through our building and zoning, and that's a discussion that we've had at our city managers group, is that would essentially, if you're looking for uniformity, it would create uniformity, but again, it would take out any particular control or local control that the city councils would have. So you'd have to adhere to that. And I probably left something out in that description, but that's essentially what we're looking at. So we're monitoring that very closely.
All right, thank you, AJ. Yep. All right, anything else for the good of the order tonight? No, I'll ask for a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?